Hello, everyone, and you're welcome to POP, Progress Over Perfection. I'm Mauro, your host, and today we're going to talk about money. This first episode of 4, we're going to unpack prenups and a practical way to reduce money stress and protect both people fairly. So we're going to talk about money in couple, money and family from a perspective from a financial advisor like Karen Adams from Financial Management 101 from here, from Perth. And from my point of view, that I'm a couple therapist and I think that love is what actually matters. So you're welcome, Karen. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Mauro. Thank you for having me on your show.
Would you like to tell a little bit about you and how you came to become a financial advisor? And what is a financial advisor?
Yeah, so I actually class myself as a financial educator because I've been in financial services for 40 years. I started very young, and back then I started when interest rates were 15 going up to 18% and mortgage rates were hitting the 18%. So I've seen some interesting times many years ago, back in the late 80s, and seeing the stress that was very different then to now. And through my career, I've basically been in investment funds management, have been a financial planner, have been a mortgage broker. What else have I done? I've done lots, actually, Mauro. But the reason I stepped out of financial planning and out of mortgage broking is that it is highly regulated, which is great. I'm all about regulation and keeping things right. But I really wanted to explore more about why we weren't being taught about things. Like I've come from an Italian family. I've got great mum and dad who are very strong in the financial literacy. And then my grandparents were very good. So I didn't have an issue managing money. And I was taught work hard, save hard, and also learn how to invest properly. But a lot of people I was coming across in my years have never been taught how to manage money. So I started to have a look and I played with it on the side, helping people while I had my other business. And then I decided I'm going to step out and become a financial coach and educator and help people understand how to manage their money once and for all so they can live a stress life. Because as you know, with your clients, some of them, they come to you, they're a little bit stressed, and sometimes money is on that top of that issue as well as other things, I guess.
Absolutely. You're right. Money is one of the couple of things that school do not teach.
Oh.
Um, School do not teach how to handle money, as you say. Relationship is what they do. But today, in this first episode of 4, because we're going to have 4 conversation about money, is about prenup. Can you tell me what are the biggest myths about prenup?
Sure. And I guess as a relationship counselor, you have a different view perhaps to what I do, which would be great to have this really good conversation. But look, prenups, there's generally a taboo around prenups because people think, oh, we're going to put a prenup. You don't really love me enough. You don't trust me. But that's actually not the case. And so I'm going to demyth what that is. The pros of having a prenup is that we're now in a blended family situation, right? Especially here in Australia, that we started originally with one partner, then we split and we had children with that partner, and now we've got a new partner and they've got children or we have more children. So what happens when at the end of your life, when the assets need to be divvied up? And a prenup actually helps clear up in case you split again, to protecting those current children that have already been in the first relationship, plus children in a new relationship, or a spouse who needs a little bit more care from, say, the first relationship. So it sounds confusing, but in my view, and I'm going to explain why I'm very much for a prenup in certain situations, is that back when I was 24, I was married. Prenups went around. We came in the relationship together as equals. We had the same amount that we brought into the relationship, working and building our asset base. When we parted company and I was in my late 20s, we split. I basically had started to build an asset base and I lost more of my hard-earned wealth to my ex because he had less. So, and I went, right, cut my ties and that was it. If we had a prenup and as we built up, because if you just have an inkling that that partner is not 100% right after you've already been in that relationship, it's a bit hard to actually unravel that. So what my thought was with a prenup is if you're in a relationship, you can do a pre-renup, they call it. But in the case of when I met my new partner and we'd known each other a long time, we had the conversation about that, but we both came to the party with equal assets. So if we parted, we basically would take those equal assets. But if I came into the relationship and he was either far more ahead of me or I was far more ahead of him, I would have actually put a prenup. That was already in my conversation with him already, because I'd already lost my assets once. I'd in my 30s started to build some property and shares and build a really good nest egg. And I wasn't sure what he had at the time. So I was really sitting on the fence about bringing that up. We did have a conversation later as we got together, realizing we both had the same asset, and we were happy. And he was happy to do a prenup if I wanted to. But it turned out that we came in equally. Now, we have only got one child, but if we came in and I had a child and he had a child, I would definitely done a prenup, because I would have wanted to make sure the assets that I built was protecting my daughter and her future as well. And likewise, I would respect that he would want a prenup just to protect his child as we come together, because it's a lot harder when you go to a divorce court to try and split things up. But if you've got a prenup, which is a legal agreement, it clearly says that my child gets this, and then, you get whatever's left over in the event.
So
Does
you
that make
say,
sense, Mauro?
sorry?
Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Makes sense. The question is, so you're saying that prenup is good in certain situation. Let's say you say it, especially if there is two people come in with a similar type of asset,
Yeah.
and they want to agree, both of them, to, especially if there is other kids, maybe the blended family, there's kids around, you want to protect the future of your kids with a prenup. That can make sense. But what if you are a young couple, for example, you're early 30s, and you maybe work in a normal job, like, I don't know, one work at Target, the other one work at the, I don't know, petrol station.
Gas, for
Yeah.
example. Yeah.
Two person like that, that going to build their future together, it's good make a prenup as well, or do you think that can be maybe a turn off for the couple?
Well, and look, it's not romantic saying you're having a prenup. Let's be honest, it's not. But it's about asset protection. If I hadn't have had the divorce I had, where I lost it, I probably would have had a different mindset about why prenup's important. I don't have a blended families. I actually think that, so my personal view is, yes, I would go in as a young couple, because if you know behind the scenes that your grandparents or your parents are going to leave you an inheritance, and that person is potentially, look, you just never know, Maura, what happens. Somebody could hit their head and their whole mentality change, or they go through a depression, or they go through some mental health, and their whole perception on life can change, which means it changes the dynamics between the couple, and sometimes it's not solvable. So while it's very clinical, you go into a business arrangement with a partner, right? So you set up a business and you go, I'm going to go into business, say with you, we would have a business arrangement, correct? Because if you decide you want to part company and you wanted to go off and do different things, or I want to go different things, we would have a contract in place that says, in the event of X person leaving, this is what would happen to the assets. Or in the event of, say, I passed away and we're business partners, we would have an arrangement in place that my portion of the investment or the growth of the business would go to my husband and my child, because we have an arrangement in place that says that's what would happen if I suddenly had got sick or I died in a car accident and you were left without me. That's a business arrangement. So I personally think, contrary to a lot of people, what they don't think, because their head is in the cloud going, it's all about love. Yeah, but love falls off after a period of time. When things get tough, and things get tough in relationships, as we know, the romance goes out the door. So I think by protecting both couples, but having a nice arrangement in place, it just protects. But if you stay together for 60 years, does it matter? The prenup was irrelevant. But if it wasn't, and say someone had an affair or someone decided they had enough and they're leaving, then that person who's built the asset now has to give part of that away, when the other person perhaps may not be entitled to it.
And what if, for example, when there is a power difference between the couple, let's say one into the other one, and because the second they decide both together to, one was stopping working because was better for the family, just taking care of the kids, just say that is a job, that one too, but the other one is actually the one that make the money. Okay, how that can protect the prenup, can protect both the interest
Absolutely.
of the person, because one is the one that doesn't make the money, and this is what happened in the last 100
Yep.
years. It changed in the last 15. It's changing in the last
Yeah.
15 with the new feminist movement. But let's say that you still have this person that doesn't make the money to live, and the other person make all the money. So how you going to handle the situation in a way that there is not this imbalance of power?
Well, I personally think it's actually then going to protect the other person who's, say, raising the family, while they're more, should we call them power hungry people? I don't know if
Mm.
that's the right terminology to use, but, someone's more career driven, and say that the partner's staying at home raising children. And the event that something happens to that primary producer or the person who is, more corporatized and wanting to earn the money, in the event there's something they get attracted to somebody else and leave this other person with nothing, which happens a lot. I think a prenup is actually really important, because if it's a good lawyer sets it up right, it looks after the person that hasn't had the chance to be in the workforce, grow their super fund, get some extra income that they would have had. I think a prenup's a good thing in that respect, because in the event that that parts its company, that person's still protected, because it says that they get X amount of income or X amount of money after they part company. So it's not just for those, Mauro, that have really worked hard and, feel like it's a bit unfair and just because someone hasn't worked hard. People work hard, but where we've got family dynamics where one stays at home and one works, a prenup is a good thing in that respect too, because that means that protects the person who hasn't had the opportunity to get in the workforce and earn the income. So I think it's a great thing for both sides.
Mm.
Depends on how the couple looks at it. And we are in a society where we're a little bit money hungry, so they can be looked at quite differently. Anyone getting into a relationship today, why wouldn't you have a prenup? So in the event of, say, something happening, you do that for a will, right? We're going to talk about that later. In the event of something, when you pass away, what happens to your money? Well, why not do a pre-estate planning by saying a prenup, saying in the event that something happens here and you part company, or we're just not the right fit, this is how we'll split up the assets.
And what is happening when a couple, the family actually split without a prenup? What are the consequences of that?
Then you go
That
through the
you see?
court of law, and the court decides, because you don't have a formal agreement in place like a prenup, what states what's going to happen with those assets or the income. And so, as we know, it depends on what judge you get and who fights for who as your case. And some people are left, well, in Australia, some men are actually basically left with nothing and paying, 75, depending on how many children they've got, percent of their income towards the spouse, which is fair because they've got the children. But then there are some cases that, the wife who's been staying home in some cases hasn't done the right thing, and the poor bloke is left blindsided, and now they're paying for something that they never asked or wanted or never thought that was going to happen, because they didn't see the relationship was breaking down.
Do you think the system is a little bit more against men than women?
Yes, I do. That's my personal opinion. I do. And I know lots of cases that I see that men, in some cases where they've been blindsided and didn't realise, because they weren't listening to the cues that the woman has been trying to say, they're not happy, not happy, not happy. And as you know, women take a lot longer to go, right, I'm not happy, I'm not happy, I'm not happy. And all of a sudden they go, done, I'm not happy, I'm out of here. And the bloke goes,
Mm.
what? Well, yes, sometimes they need to open their ears up a bit more and look around. But
Yeah.
it is more favoured for the female, because they're generally the ones that are going to stay home and look after the kids, this
Yeah.
underage children, under 18 and that. Yeah,
Yeah.
men have, from the cases that I've seen, and I've helped rebuild their life back through their managing their money, they do get a raw deal in the system. That's
Okay.
why prenup, I think, is a great thing, because it means an equal standing. If something happens, both parties understand what's going to happen with the income and what's going to happen with the assets, especially if there's a home, especially in Australia at the moment where house prices are.
Mm.
Some women will get more of that than what men, and then they have to start again, and they're still paying spousal maintenance and they're paying for child support, which they should, because it's, your children. But yeah, a little bit tougher, Mauro.
How long it takes to put together a prenup?
Good question. It's a matter of just going to a lawyer and drawing up the will. It can take a while if the couples aren't in agreement or one feels like they're being dragged along because they don't agree or they're not understanding why that can benefit them as well. It's just pretty much like drawing up a will. It's a matter of sitting down with a lawyer and going, this is what I want. This is what we want. How do we make this amicable? So in the event, not that we going into this that we're going to split, but in the event that something does happen in 15 years or 10 years or 20 years, this is what we want to happen. So yeah, a lawyer would be a great one to answer that question, but it shouldn't take too long to do that because you're just putting your instruction in place and they draw up the legal agreement.
Mm. And what about the couple that are already married and they don't have a prenup, but they want to do something similar? There is something that can help them to do the same
Yeah,
thing? What is
yeah,
called?
pretty much. Today you can go to a lawyer now and just say, in the event of something happening or we're looking at parting company, can we draw up a financial agreement now? But
Mm.
most times when people decide to leave, it's too late because the one party's already exited in their mind
Mm.
and the other one's just trying to
Let's say,
catch up.
let's say a couple that maybe have that is okay. They don't think about anything, but just they want to do what they maybe they haven't done the prenup before to get
Mm,
married. They can do a post-married prenup. I
yeah,
don't
it
know.
is a post
I was
post
just called
prenup. Yeah, that's
post.
it. Post prenup. Yeah.
And this have the same legal um, is legally approved.
Yes, it can do. It depends on how the lawyer draws it up and who the lawyer is.
Mm.
I was privileged enough to be to know a very strong Queen's Counsel lawyer who just said that prenups, when they're done properly, protect both parties. When they're not, it can be favoured one or the other. But a really good lawyer will make sure it takes into consideration both parties.
What make this difference? In
The
what
way it's drawn up.
area?
And I guess it's a conversation. I
Mm.
would think when someone is going into looking at a prenup, they need to have a conversation with someone like yourself first so they can air out any grievances or any issues because, like I said, it's not the most romantic thing. And for
No.
one person, they're thinking, oh, are they planning on leaving me and leave me with nothing? So that could have those horrible emotions and that trauma or that feeling like they're going to be left out. So I believe if you're going to go into that, please get counselling first on why it may be beneficial. And having conversations like now means that we're protecting both parties. It's not just the person who's earning the income or one's at home. It's actually looking after both parties. And I think that when it comes to it, if it needs to, that family separates, it means it's protecting the children and future people coming in to that relationship as well.
It's hard for me because I come from a country that is very conservative, and love is relationship is something that you just do, and there is nothing romantic, as you say, in a prenup. Um, I understand the way that you talk about these things. What is the I want to ask you, what is the best way to start a conversation about this thing?
Well, I think if you're coming into a relationship, it's a lot harder because we've still got the love bloom happening. And that can always be a bit more challenging. But I guess the way that if I was doing it now, how I'd start is you're in that relationship, you're starting to develop, you're looking at moving in together, or you're looking at getting married, whatever the circumstance is
Mm.
for that couple, would be like going, look, I want to actually raise something with you that may not sit well straight away because it's not what we normally do in society. But I want to share with you that why I think we need to get into a prenup. Wow, what? Yeah, the reason why I want to do this, we want to protect both of us, right? So in the event that I leave, I want to make sure that you're looked after. If you're staying at home, or if you leave, that I'm looked after if I'm staying at home, or I don't have the earning capacity that you have, or you don't have the earning capacity that I have. I want to protect us so that, it may never happen. And let's hope it doesn't because we're going into this that we want to be forever together. But why don't we look at protecting us because things happen, illnesses, um, accidents can change people. So let's protect us because we are perhaps we will have a family, we're going to build an asset base. So let's put something in place now that says in the event that we decide that we're not right for each other anymore, this is how we'll split the assets up. What that does is that actually makes things easier when you go into court of law to get a divorce or a separation. We already have that financial agreement in place on what happens. And so I think if you have an open conversation and have it in a very kind, but we're not planning on this, but we're going to protect both of us, right? And that's how you sort of have to do it. But if the person is not not open enough, or they've got that defensive mechanism. They need to have a conversation with someone like yourself, even though you've come from, as you know, the love bombs, the conservative side. It is a reality that we've got to protect both parties now. And we need to
No,
treat it a
no.
bit like a business without being a business. Does that make sense?
Look, in certain ways, I agree with you. I can think about a few couples I working with that they should have this
Mm.
kind of situation for the simple reason that, yeah, it would be better for both of them.
Yeah.
So to protect both of them. Understand. I remember when married, when I got married with my wife, we don't have a prenup. Um, and everybody was saying, "Get a prenup, get a prenup, get a prenup." Um, we haven't done it yet. We happy like this at the moment. Um, but I understand the way that you speak about certain situation.
Mm.
What is about? What I'm worried about is you say earlier that yes, men got a little bit hit by more hit by the system because usually it's the woman to stay home.
Mm.
In my mind, I think about all these people that all these women that they got left empty after taking care of the
Mm.
kids. They reach a certain age. They saw their husband leaving the nest with a younger 20 years old, and they say, well, what are we going to do now? Where we going to start?
And that does happen, especially when some guys know that they're going to be hit up with loss of their income. They
Yeah.
wait till the children are adult before they leave, and then now the woman is actually ready to get her life back, but she's left with nothing. So it does happen on the other side. I think I think it really supports fairness in some complex situations, where one partner, like we said, pauses to raise a family and the other one is out working. And then they decide to part company. And it happens a lot. It happened in a lot of my mum and dad's generation where couples waited till the children off their hands. Then they parted company and one party was left with less than the other. So I don't know, it should be part of like a marriage contract. You put a marriage contract in place or a spousal arrangement where you live together, because some people aren't getting married. Let's do a prenup. If we've got nothing to worry about, why are we worried about it? But if something does happen, then we've got some arrangements in place. So the court goes, oh, this is your arrangement, but we split up because that makes it fair and equitable. And that's all
Yeah,
it's about, right? It's about making it fair and equitable for everybody. So there's
yeah.
less pain, because there's enough pain when you separate. So let's try and take some of that pain away when it comes to the biggest pain issue is children and money and how
Mm.
to, separate the
Can
assets.
can a prenup separate? For example, let's say that one have a business, the other one not. Can a prenup separate for example, the business go bankrupt, losing money, okay, shut down? Prenup can stop the government to take over the assets of the family.
Well, I don't know if it stops it. It actually has a debt. It outlines what happens to the debts in the event of that. So it depends also how the business structure is set up. Is that partner involved? Is it separate? Is it separate as a company? There's a whole lot of structures which I'm not authorized to sort of advise on. But the thing is, when you set your business up, you need to make sure how is it set up? How's it structured? So the event of liquidation, are they going to come hitting the house because the house has gone guarantor for it? These are the things that people need to be aware of. Am I responsible now for this business? Am I a director of this business? What's the responsibility?
Okay.
They're very big conversations, which we'll probably need to have a conversation with as well. But that is that's a separate one that needs to be considered about what happens when there's a business involved. But if they're a business partner and she's or he's in on that business as a director, then he is actually liable, or she's liable as well if the business goes under, which means in the event of a prenup, they both have to dissolve those assets, or the liquidators that have to pay back on the creditors. That's part of it.
That's part of it. So
So maybe a prenup may be able to, but then if you're actually as part of ownership of that business as a joint, that's a whole other complex issue, which will require more of a tax accountant and a lawyer to get involved in both to making sure that that person's protected if and when a prenup is had a conversation about. They need to go and check how those assets are set up and how that business is set up.
Well, thank you, Karen. We are at the end of this first appointment. We're going to talk about in the next 4 weeks. We're going to talk about money and family and what to do with the money and how maybe we try to give the best advice that we can.
This is more educational conversation
Education.
to be aware of. But yes, seek accountants, seek your lawyer, seek professional advice and a financial planner always before you do anything with your money. That's what I would say too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Karen, from my Financial Management 101. You're the best. See you at the next appointment. Ciao.
Fantastic. Thank you.